Everybody on this Monday, May 25th. How are we all doing today? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for this Memorial Day special I have today? And I got some more exciting topics than I thought I probably would have on this Memorial Day weekend. It's Monday. You're probably all having barbecues, I guess, with friends, family, whoever else today. Yeah, just also whoever's day drinking, just stay safe. And if you want to play all those crazy games, go for it on this Memorial Day. But then yet again, I'm here for the next 57 minutes to entertain you with sports on this 72nd show today. And let's get started right away with the golf tournament, when I never talk about golf on this show, like, ever. But I felt like I had to tune into it yesterday because it was Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson and then Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So the teams were as follows. It was Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady and Tiger Woods and Peyton Manning. I didn't watch the beginning of the match. I watched from like 5:39 to like 5:30 today. I had my brother's virtual graduation and taking pictures and other stuff. And so then afterwards I watched it. And no, I'm not into golf really. But it kept me entertained because of the people who were participating in it. That was Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady. So, I thought the most funniest thing about the whole charity tournament was this. Who's a big fan of SpongeBob on here? Or any of you guys big fans of SpongeBob in general? So one of the I guess you could say funny moments, not so funny moments, was that Tom Brady ripped his pants. And then there's the SpongeBob episode of, there goes SpongeBob ripping his pants again. So for the fun of it yesterday on Twitter, I just had to post that GIF of SpongeBob ripping his pants when it referred to Tom Brady. But then yet Tom Brady, for birdie on the 7th hole, had a fantastic shot. Pretty good, I guess, for a starting NFL quarterback, huh? And what surprised me, speaking of quarterbacks, is how good Peyton Manning actually golfed. Peyton Manning almost had a hole-in-one. And it's just amazing how much skill you need to play golf on these long 18-hole golf courses. I was impressed by Peyton. By far, Brady was probably the worst on the court, but he was still competitive and did, I guess, well enough that they only lost by, one? And they happened to raise $20 million for this event. The Champions for Charity in the Sunshine State. And Tiger has not golfed since February 16th? That's pretty good for 3 straight months that he simply did not golf. And Phil Mickelson, for a lefty, man, that stroke is fantastic. I'm like, this guy's got a nice stroke. He's got a nice swing. No wonder why he's one of the best in the business. He really is the best in the business when it comes to golf. And it's so hard to golf on a golf course because you need to know basically a lot of geometry. You need to know a lot of this. You need to know a lot of that. And I would like to see something different next year. How about instead of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, we get, someone said this yesterday, we get Steph Curry and Michael Jordan on the golf course. Because Steph Curry, you know the TV show Holy Moly? The mini golf game? And Michael Jordan, I guess from the documentary, or whatever else they've been showing him in the past with him golfing on the golf course. I was gonna make a joke, a political about Donald Trump, but I'm not gonna go there today on this Memorial Day. Just in too bright of a mood to do something like that. And the weather conditions for this match were absolutely horrendous. They were garbage. But they managed to find a way in the rain and the this and the that and the fog. And I thought it was tremendously broadcasted by Brian Anderson and Charles Barkley on TNT. And I miss those guys when it comes to the NBA. And I'll get into the more NBA stuff later on this show. But I miss Brian Anderson's calls on basketball games. And so I miss Charles Barkley's analyst when it comes to basketball in the TNT studios. But in the meantime, let's hope this has something like this happens again next year. I really do, because it was one of the most fun golf matches I ever watched. That's probably because I barely watch any golf. And the PGA Tour is coming back in 2 weeks. It's coming back in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be watching. And at this event, it was at Medalist Golf Club in Hobe Sound, Florida. And it's just going to be exciting when PGA golf returns for you golf fans. And I'm not particularly a golf fan, but I'm just here talking about it today just to basically entertain you guys with it, because I guess, as they say, spread the love, right? So, on that note, nonetheless, there was 2 other people happened to be golfing yesterday, I happened to see online, and they weren't participating in a golf event. They were just golfing for fun. Pittsburgh Penguins captain Sidney Crosby and Arizona Coyotes player Phil Kessel used to both be teammates in Pittsburgh when they won back-to-back cups in 2017. And a lot of hockey players are golfing at this time because, hey, we're not playing right now. But, drum roll please on the announcement I'm about to make about the NHL. Ladies and gentlemen, we are we are just basically inches away, or maybe a few miles away, from the best playoff tournament in sports and starting. Welcome to Lord Stanley. Lord Stanley, give me the Grammy, baby. The words of Mike Lang, the Pittsburgh Penguins announcer. The Stanley Cup playoffs are just miles away, baby. Because Friday night, it was approved that by the NHLPA and the Board of Governors and the NHL that there will be a 2014 playoff. And look, as I've said in the past, I'm not a fan of the 2014 playoff. And in a couple of minutes, I will get to my pros and cons about this. But at least we're getting something when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. If there are certain teams that will have a monster asterisk if they win. But then there will be those teams, the top tier teams, even if they win, they won't have an asterisk because they were expected to win the whole thing anyways. Now it's going to be interesting to see if a mid-tier team wins. Like an Edmonton, a Dallas, and a Philadelphia, and a Toronto. That's a very interesting phenomenon. It's going to all depend what happens. So, today should be the day, as it has been on Memorial Day for the past several years. I should be previewing the Stanley Cup Finals right now on this show. But instead of previewing the Stanley Cup Finals on here, I'm probably previewing your first round of the play-in tournament, which is most likely to be 5 rounds, 5 games, and everything else is going to be a 7-game series. So but before I get into your matchups here, 4 teams are each going to have a first round bye. In the Western Conference, I'll start with the West. The Dallas Stars are your 4 seed. The Vegas Golden Knights are your 3 seed. The Colorado Avalanche are your 2 seed. And the St. Louis Blues are your number 1 seed. And now they're doing this based off of points percentage. The first matchup, and this is all bracketed, by the way. The winner faces number 4 seed Dallas Stars. Number 12 seed Chicago Blackhawks against the number 5 seed Edmonton Oilers. This is a clean sweep away by a mile by the Edmonton Oilers. And if you think the Blackhawks have a limited chance against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, with that Horus defense and goaltending Chicago, you're absolutely out of your minds. Mike Smith will shut the door. Yes, I know Chicago's decently offensively with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, but Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl will completely abuse the Blackhawks. Not a chance the Oilers lose this series. Next one. The Arizona Coyotes, the 11 seed, against the Nashville Predators, the 6 seed. Nashville in 5. Only the sole reason is I think Arizona wins a couple games based off of their goaltending. And the truth of the matter is, we might see every game in this series either 1-0 or 2-1, because both of these teams stink from the S to the K when it comes to scoring goals. That's just facts. What is Arizona's got? Phil Kessel, Taylor Hollins, everybody else. And Nashville, what? It's Philip Forsberg and that blue line and everybody else? Please, there's no offense. There's no offensive firepower in that series. Watch, every game will be 7-6 as I preview it. Oh, geez. Next series. Number 10 seed Minnesota Wild against the number 7 seed Vancouver Canucks. I'll take Vancouver in 4. Look, Vancouver was on the bubble here, and so is Minnesota with the playoffs. But the thing about the Wild is, and this is what I'm wondering about some of these teams. And yes, there were 29 teams, and 29 teams actually approved of this format. The only 2 teams that did not approve of this format is the Carolina Hurricanes and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And what's interesting is, do some of these teams that are actually in the playoffs, like the lower tier teams, do they actually want to be there? Do they actually not want to be there? That's a very interesting sign to keep an eye on. Moving forward, because there's teams just going to be there just to be happy and just to show up and not be content with it. That's what I'm wondering if this play-in series is going to be like. So I'll take Vancouver in 4 because I believe Billy Guerin, the GM of the Minnesota Wild, they're gonna be still in that kind of rebuild mode. I don't know how far they're gonna want to go. And the funny thing is, before I get to my next segment, I actually have a picture with Bill Guerin back in 2017 when he brought the Stanley Cup and the Jack Adams and the Conn Smythe and the Rocket Richard Trophy all to the Wilkes-Barre area. I remember that with my friend. That was fun. I have pictures of it. And so then the other series in the Western Conference will be, and I like this series a lot, number 9 seed Winnipeg Jets and the number 8 seed Calgary Flames. Give me the Calgary Flames in 5. First of all, these 2 teams, yes, I know they're not in the same division, but I get the impression they don't like each other very much because they seem to play in the Heritage Classic outdoors every year in Canada. The Calgary Flames, you got speed and skill, Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Matthew Tkachuk. Boy, I've expressed my opinion about Matthew Tkachuk before on this show. And I'm not going to rant about it today because I'm going to be very nice on this show today. And as for the Winnipeg Jets, you got some snipers like Patrick Laine, Blake Wheeler, and some other good players on the roster. And then you also have Connor Hellebuyck between the pipes. Hellebuyck and Dave Rittich is a very interesting goalie matchup. I think that's what it would come down to in this series. Because they're very even offensively, and their defensive blue lines are shaky. But the last line of defense is your goaltending, and I think David Rittich would be just a little bit better than Connor Hellebuyck, so I'll take Calgary in 5. So in the Eastern Conference we go. Your bye seeds are number 4, the Philadelphia Flyers, number 3, the Washington Capitals, number 2, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and number 1, the Boston Bruins. Here we go. Matchups in the East as follows. number 12 seed Montreal Canadiens against the number 5 seed, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh in 4, I think Carey Price steals a game. And then you got Jake Guentzel coming back. Sidney Crosby, one of the elite leaders on this hockey club and the heartbeat and heart and soul of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then you got Evgeny Malkin and Patrick Hornquist, who's basically a pest in front of the net, and Matt Murray. Pittsburgh's just better all the way around. Next up, the 11th seed New York Rangers against the 6th seed Carolina Hurricanes. I'm going to take Carolina in 5. I just think Carolina's a little bit more gritty. Yes, you got Artemi Panarin and Igor Shesterkin on the New York Rangers. They're complete Russian studs. But I just think the Rangers are not there yet. And Carolina's very gritty. And they were one of the 2 teams that did not approve of this. Carolina didn't approve of this format. Maybe it's because of the Rangers, but I'm not exactly sure why. But I saw something on Twitter about why the Tampa Bay Lightning didn't want this. And it actually had nothing to do with them not wanting to play in the playoffs. They believed they did not want a first-round bye, just like in football. What are the odds if you get rusty and this and that? That's what Tampa Bay felt like. It had to do with more of in-game experience more than anything else. Next matchup, number 10 seed Florida Panthers against the number 7 seed, the New York Islanders. Give me the New York Islanders in 4. First of all, Barry Trotz is a phenomenal coach. Yes, I know Joe Quenneville's been there before, but come on. Islanders were in the playoffs last year. The Panthers are still, another year or 2 away? Yes, you got Alexander Barkov and Evgeny Dadonov. Yeah, they're good on. And Jonathan Huberdeau on Florida Panthers. Sure, they're good. But first of all, you have Matthew Barzal, who's the heartbeat and heart soul of the New York Islanders. Terrific captain. Yeah, I know he's kind of butt heads with Barry Trotz from time to time. But then yet again, offensive personnel-wise, the Islanders are a little bit shaky. But then yet again, they're okay net with Semyon Varlamov and Thomas Greiss. And they're very good defensively structured. So I like the Islanders in this situation. And the last one, number 9 seed Columbus Blue Jackets against the number 8 seed Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sorry, give me number 9 seed Columbus and 4 over Toronto. First of all, the Columbus Blue Jackets are a much more tougher team than Toronto is, let's face it at that. You're going to tell me that Columbus will lose? First of all, John Tavares, Mitchell Marner, and Austin Matthews, Mitchell Marner, John Tavares are scaredy cats when it comes to actually facing some defense. They hate being hit. They hate being punched in the mouth. Let's just say it how it is. They are scared of physicality, and no wonder why they can't beat the Boston Bruins. Columbus is a little weaker version of the Boston Bruins, but John Tortorella brings that same style as a head coach because, let's see, Seth Jones on the back end, Zach Werenski on the back end. Oh yeah, Pierre-Luc Dubois, who happens to be a very good centerman and is very gritty. And then you got what? Cam Atkinson and Oliver Bjorkstrand. And then because the team has been very hurt all year, and they would finally get healthy. And then you have Nick Foligno, who's the captain, the heartbeat and heart and soul of your Columbus Blue Jackets, because Columbus ended their actually better goaltending with Alvin Smerslikins or Jonas Korpisalo than they are with Freddie Anderson. Let's say it how it is. That's what I'm saying right now. Because the truth of the matter is, Columbus would rough these guys up in a series. So now that's moved on. Yeah, it would just be basically repeating myself if I say, yeah, Colorado, Tampa Bay is going to meet each other in the finals anyways. So the second round matchup would be, and I'm going to stop it right there. So your second round matchups after that would be Edmonton versus Dallas, Nashville versus Vegas, Vancouver versus Colorado, and Calgary versus St. Louis. And now in the East, I would have Pittsburgh versus Philadelphia, Carolina versus Washington, Columbus versus Boston, and the New York Islanders versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's how I would feel about it. That's what I have for the matchups. So now moving on to the next thing, staying in the hockey topic. So, with this in mind now that the playoff teams that have been basically decided, here are the 7 teams that are now basically, this is going to figure out now the draft lottery. The New Jersey Devils, the Ottawa Senators, the Detroit Red Wings, the Buffalo Sabres, the San Jose Sharks, the Los Angeles Kings, and the Anaheim Ducks. What's funny is even in a 2014 playoff, no California teams make it, and no, we cannot get the 7 teams from Canada in as well. That's what my brother Jake asked me. He's like, are all 7 teams in from Canada? I'm like, no, the Ottawa Senators are the only ones out of the party. And someday, maybe someday, we will see all 7 teams from Canada in the NHL playoffs, but not this year, maybe next year, or maybe sometime down the road. That would be a fun feature to see that happen, but not going to happen today. And I hope Detroit gets the 1 pick. So it'd be, Detroit, Ottawa, New Jersey, then LA, New Jersey, San Jose, Anaheim, in that order for the NHL draft lottery. And after the draft lottery, then they got to figure out, okay, what's the order going to be like for the rest of the draft? Are they going to do it before they start the Stanley Cup playoffs, or are they just going to have to wait until after the Stanley Cup playoffs are over? And there are two cities that are potentially being discussed for hub cities, Edmonton and Columbus. And let's go now with the pros and the cons. Your first pro, when it comes to this playoff format, is that they do not have to worry about bubble teams begging that they were treated unfairly. Because first of all, some teams played somewhere between 68 to 71 games. Teams like the Columbus Blue Jackets, the New York Islanders, the Florida Panthers, the New York Rangers, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Minnesota Wild, Vancouver Canucks, Nashville Predators, those teams were on the bubble and on the mist of a wild card spot or missing the playoffs. And if you just put in 16 teams, based on these foreseen circumstances, and then a team like, say, the Islanders are left out and they start complaining, the NHL's like, you're going to have no fair way to do this. So it's like, okay, so these are the steps we are going to have to take. These are the steps we are going to have to take today. So that's a positive. That those teams are not going to have to complain to Gary Bettman. The second good news with these pros is there's no divisional format. Okay? So that means the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals could play each other in the conference finals. And it's not happened before when Crosby and Ovechkin have played each other in the conference finals, and this may be the only golden chance that we might see it happen. And you don't think that's a moneymaker for the NHL? That's money written all over it. As the old phrase, money talks, ladies and gentlemen. Money talks. Because the truth of the matter is, Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin will make the NHL a lot of money if they played each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I would like that very much. And then you would also have in the same conference, because the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Boston Bruins both had the top 2 records, top 2 points, during the regular season, and those two teams don't have to square off in the second round. And Tampa Bay and Boston could be a 2-1 conference final. Remember a few years ago in 2017 where the top 4 teams in the East had to play each other within the first 2 rounds because of the divisional format? Columbus was the 4th best team in the East. They were the 4th best. And they had to play Pittsburgh, who was the 2nd best that year. And Pittsburgh, who was the 2nd best team, happened to play the best team in the league that year in the Washington Capitals. Just a reminder how kind of ridiculous at times the divisional format is. Maybe, yeah, we're not going to go 2014 playoff next year. But just for this year, we could possibly embrace the true conference finals. And the same case goes for the West. If it's anything other than the Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues, it's a complete bust. Because let's face it, who's been in St. Louis and Colorado until the conference finals now that it's in this format? Anybody? Dallas Stars? Maybe, if they could generate enough offense. How about the Vegas Golden Knights? I don't know if I trust any of their star players, or I don't know what Marc-Andre Fleury I'm going to get in the playoffs. How about the Edmonton Oilers? Yeah, you get Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but if you shut them down, they're basically done. Because let's face it, Connor McDavid is the heartbeat and heart and soul of the Edmonton Oilers, and let's just face it, without him, they're basically a no-show. But then yet again, Leon Draisaitl basically proved that he could do it on his own. And he's probably going to win the Hart Trophy. That's what's going to happen. That's how I feel in the West. And then we were talking about the NHL draft lottery. This is a pro, and now they finally figured it out. Next up, what are the cons in this playoff format? My first con is, why does Edmonton and Pittsburgh have to play a team like a Chicago or Montreal who wasn't even sniffing the playoffs to begin with? Montreal was sellers, and then you had Chicago, who is basically horrendous on defense and goaltending, and they're also rebuilding. Next, the integrity of the Stanley Cup playoffs is usually 16 teams, and that's it. Nonetheless, and that's why head coach Bruce Cassidy on the Boston Bruins is not a big fan of it to begin with. And let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, he's not a big fan of it, and neither are we. But this is something we have to live with in these times, because you cannot predict the future. And this is going to be a very interesting Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm real curious to see how it's all going to work out at the end of the day. Last but not least, why and when could it be potentially safe for these teams to play games? There's still a lot to be decided right now, and it could get really interesting to see nonetheless. And speaking of safe to play, there are some updates on protocols this morning in the NHL. Pierre LeBrun of Sportsnet posted, NHLPA sent out 29-page Phase 2 protocol, parenthesis, opening a practice facility small group workouts to teams and players late last night. Will be released publicly today as well. From NHLPA Phase 2 memo regarding players. Face coverings, cloths or surgical type masks shall be worn at all times other than while exercising when entering. Shall be worn at all times other than while exercising when entering or leaving the club facility, and while inside a club facility where social distancing cannot be maintained. And he also posted, the NHLPA Phase 2 agreement stipulates 6 players max in a practice facility at once, the on-ice session with players, only no coaches or other personnel allowed at once. And the other thing is, there is no idea when this will begin. It's strictly voluntary for right now. And some of these guys are not required to return home to the places where they play right now. So that's going to be very, very, very interesting to see when these players come back. When they come back, that remains to be seen. But I remember this. I was talking about it someone last night. It was like with The Office, and it's like, oh my God, okay, it's happening. And I saw someone post that as a gift this morning. It's like, oh my God, okay, it's happening. The NHL's getting closer to returning. And I'm like, yippee! The NHL is closer to returning, and I'm so happy. And want to know what's another interesting headline today? Bradley Beal potentially might be getting traded to not the Washington Wizards, getting traded from the Washington Wizards to the Brooklyn Nets. Let's just face it right now. Bradley Beal is an all-star caliber player who does not get enough recognition. Let me just say it like that. Bradley Beal is the leader of this team because John Wall hasn't been playing. He is a leader. He is the heartbeat and heart soul of the Washington Wizards. And let's just face it. When Beal leaves, that's going to be a tough rebuild. But then yet, they may get some nice pieces in return. The reason why Bradley Beal's name is being mentioned in trade talks, because first of all, Washington needs a rebuild. Second of all, Brooklyn's trying to win now with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Bradley Beal, let's see. Okay. So Bradley Beal would be an excellent number 2 or number 3. He's the number 1 in Washington. In 57 games this year, he's averaged 30.5 points a game, 4.2 rebounds a game, 6.1 assists per game, 0.4 blocks per game, and 1.2 steals per game. Okay. So, that would be a great fit. Let's see. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. And then some of the guys you might have to give up. Spencer Dinwiddie. Caris LeVert. Jared Allen. Nicholas Claxton, and Danzin Musa. Not all 5 will have to be given up, but you're going to have to give up 2 or 3 or maybe 4, which is probably very, very expensive. And Rondos Kuruc, Joe Harris, and DeAndre Jordan would still be kept. And obviously one of those guys who won't get chopped. And they would also probably get rid of at least 2 first-round picks. That's what the Washington Wizards will want in this potential rebuild. And when Beal gets traded to Brooklyn, or whatever franchise gets to take him, be like, Bradley Beal. This guy's got to be an all-star now that he's out of D.C. Aha. So then he's probably the second best shooting guard, or first, depending who he has. And you also got Klay Thompson, the Golden State Warriors, and Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat. Those are some really, really... That would be a special team in Brooklyn. They would be potentially a true NBA Finals contender. Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. But the thing is, who's your power forward? You don't really have a power forward unless Durant's going to play the 4 and you start Joe Harris, the University of Virginia product. And Caris LeVert, and I'm sure Nets fans love him, but you're going to have to give him up in a trade for Bradley Beal. You built up something nice through drafting and developing players, and now if you want to get the job done, it's part of the business. You got to, I guess, make some deals. That's the only way to get things done across the NBA and other things in sports in general, is if you make trades. And as they say in life, you can't try and stay pat. You could, I guess, only go so far when you do, but then you got to upgrade yourself every now and then. And that's what the Brooklyn Nets are going to try to do here with trying to get Bradley Beal potentially in the offseason. And staying on the same topic with your Brooklyn Nets here, Spencer Dinwiddie happened to announce the possibility of when the NBA season will resume. He said something on his Twitter that games will resume on July 15th, but there's actually no one really here to really confirm it. Even though Dinwiddie, yeah, he's a player in the NBA, he's probably heard around, but we got to see when the games will resume. So Spencer Dinwiddie, who's played in 64 games so far this year, 20.6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds per game, 6.8 assists per game, 0.3 blocks per game, and 0.6 steals per game. And the talks are that Walt Disney World Resorts in Orlando, Florida might be the finishing touch for the NBA season. And I think the Las Vegas at the Strip talks is basically shot at this point nonetheless. I just think they're going to take everyone to Walt Disney. They're going to basically be in the bubble. They're going to finish they're basically going to do, I just think, a postseason. They're not going to worry about the regular season. And I think there's a more positive vibe in the NBA than I thought there was a few weeks ago. And we might see some potential big news on the NBA resuming next week. Because that will be starting that 2 to 4 week window frame that Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, announced whether or not we're going to see games. And it's a very exciting development. And since that is the case with the NBA, there are talks about that they should go straight to the playoffs. They should do some regular season games. And I just threw this out there with my dad and my brothers on Friday, that should they just like hockey have 12 teams, have like a 12-5, and then top 4 seeds have a bye? Be like, nah, let's just have it maybe 1 through 8, the best teams in the West, in the East. And then, as everyone has talked about, and people have been saying this, the NBA should do this for years. And now I'm going to tell you in a minute why this is the year they should actually not do it. Do you all remember where everyone's like, oh, the NBA needs to go 1 through 16. There are 10 teams, 11 teams out west that are so much better than the East, the whole 9 yards. And everyone's saying this year, 1 through 16 we need to do because there will be no one traveling to the East to the West Coast. Everyone's in one city. So I'm gonna tell you what the 1 through 16 is right now in the NBA, and I'm gonna tell you what the actual problem is if they actually did this year than any other year. 1 through 16. Now the 1 and 16 matchup: Milwaukee Bucks 53-12 record, .815 winning percentage, versus the 16 seed Orlando Magic with a 30-35 record with a .462 winning percentage. 8-9 matchup: Oklahoma City Thunder, your 9 seed, with a 40-24 record, .625 winning percentage, and the number 8 seed, the Miami Heat, with a 41-24 record with a .631 winning percentage. Number 13 seed, Dallas Mavericks, 40-27 record, .597 percentage, and against the Los Angeles Clippers, a 44-20 record with a 44-20 record with a .688 winning percentage. The 12 seed, Philadelphia 76ers, 39-26 record with a .600 winning percentage, versus the Boston Celtics, who has a 53-21 record with a .672 winning percentage. 15-2, Brooklyn Nets, a 30-30 Brooklyn Nets versus Los Angeles Lakers, a 30-34 record for the Brooklyn Nets with a .469 winning percentage against the Los Angeles Lakers, who happens to have a 49-14 record with a .778 winning percentage. 10-7 matchup: Houston Rockets, a 40-24 record with a .625 winning percentage, versus the 7th seed, the Utah Jazz, a 41-23 record with a .641 winning percentage. 14-3 matchup, Memphis Grizzlies versus Toronto Raptors. Memphis Grizzlies a 32-33 record with a .492 winning percentage against the Toronto Raptors, a 46-18 record with a .719 winning percentage. And then the 11-6 matchup, the Indiana Pacers, with a 39-26 record with a .600 winning percentage. And then the Denver Nuggets, number 6 seed, a 43-22 record with a 662 winning percentage. Okay, if you replay the thing again, if you were to rewind this thing, potentially later, not right now, what is the one problem this year with this format? The problem with the format this year is there's an exact even 8 teams from the East and 8 teams from the West. This year would completely defeat the purpose of the 1 through 16. It would defeat the purpose. Now, if you told me that if you had 11 or 10 teams in the West that had very good records and only 5 or 6 in the East, then okay, I have a point. Not this year. This would be the absolute worst time to do a 1 through 16. Let's just say it how it is. You would only, I think you should do that if you got a 10-11 unbalanced conference West and East. But because we are not in that situation this year, there's no need for them to do that. And I'm just going to give you what I believe will win anyways. Let's see. Milwaukee would sweep Orlando. Miami, Oklahoma City, I would take the Heat in 5. Clippers, Dallas, Clippers in 6. Sixers, Celtics, Sixers in 6. Nets and Lakers, Lakers in 5. Jazz and Rockets, Jazz in 6. Toronto and Memphis, Toronto in 5. Denver, Indiana, Denver in 6. So next round, Milwaukee, Miami, I'll take Milwaukee in 6. Clippers over the Sixers in 6. Lakers over the Jazz in 5. Toronto and Denver. I'm going with the Denver Nuggets over the Raptors in 6. I know how well coached Toronto is. I just think something about the Denver team is a little bit better than Toronto for some reason. So then you get the Bucks and the Clippers. I'm going to take the Clippers over the Bucks. Denver and the Lakers. I'm going to... Oh, boy. That's tough. I guess the Lakers in 7 and give me the Clippers over the Lakers. That would be very interesting. I still think the Clippers are going to win the whole thing. I really, truly believe the Clippers are going to win it all this year. I really believe it. That would be very interesting. But now if we go to the normal playoffs, Milwaukee, and the funny thing is there are 3 matchups in here that would happen no matter what in a West-East format. Milwaukee, Orlando is your 1-8. The Sixers and the Celtics, that's your 6-3 in the East. And, Dallas and the Clippers, that's your 7-2. So your other matchups feature Brooklyn and Toronto, that's your 7-2 in the East. And then you have in the East, you have Indiana, Miami is your 5-4. And then you have your 8-1 in the West, Memphis and the Los Angeles Lakers. And then in the 6-3 in the West, you had the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets. And then your other matchup. In the West, your 5-4 is the Thunder and the Jazz. That is your other matchup in the Western Conference. So we'll see how the NBA decides to roll with it. The NBA. I love watching. I just think it would be great if sports were to come back. And we are not sure when the MLB is going to come back. So I only got one more topic to chime in on today. Sorry, I'll be cutting this a little bit earlier than I expected to today. But I think I basically covered what I basically wanted to today. So, Jerry Sloan, the former Utah Jazz head coach, had some health problems, and he passed away at the age of 78 on Friday. And he's an NBA Hall of Fame caliber coach. He was elected in the NBA Hall of Fame in 2009. And 12. And he won 1,221 games. Lost 803 of them. He had a .603 winning percentage. And some of the other things about him in his life. He coached as an assistant with the Chicago Bulls for a year before coaching them from 1978 to 1982. He had a losing season 2 out of 3 times. He got fired. And then he became an assistant for the Utah Jazz for 4 years. And then from 1988 to 2011, he coached the Utah Jazz. And he's led them to two NBA Finals appearances. They lost to the Chicago Bulls twice. And it was also in the Western Conference Finals in 2007 against the San Antonio Spurs. Now, some players like Darren Williams, Karl Malone, Jerry Stockton, all played for him. Jerry Sloan was an iconic figure in the city of Utah, and that's why the Utah Jazz are on a map today in the National Basketball Association. Let's just say it how it is. If it wasn't for him, how would the Utah Jazz been? They probably would have been not a very good franchise. He's the reason why they are a legitimate franchise today. And that's why he set a model of success and culture and a winning attitude in the Salt Lake City, as they like to call Utah. Oh, my bad. Salt Lake City, the actual city in Utah. I don't know why I was trying to mix up some things there for a moment. So, Jerry Sloan, yeah. Is he? Well, he's top 5 in wins all time. So he's up there with Phil Jackson, who coached the Chicago Bulls and Los Angeles Lakers. And he also have a coach like Greg Popovich, who's won 5 NBA titles with the San Antonio Spurs. And you got Greg Popovich, who's a legend. He won championships. He's a culture builder. He's a this. He's a that. That's all he does is win. Greg Popovich is a successful man. That's what Greg Popovich is all about. That's what Greg Popovich is truly all about. And that's why Jerry Sloan was a successful man. Jerry Sloan was successful because he believed in himself and others, and he ran a lot of things well in Utah. And it's just been a rough year in general when it comes to people dying. I mean, it really has been a rough year when it comes to people dying because of the coronavirus and people losing loved ones, even if it's not related to the coronavirus. Yeah, people dying and passing away, it really sucks. But it's a part of life. And even the iconic figures go. And even the iconic figures go. It's just the way things are here in general. So, yeah, I mean, it's just been one of those years, I guess you could say. Yeah, David Stern passing away, the NBA commissioner on New Year's Day. Yeah, Kobe Bean Bryant dying. He tragically got killed in a plane crash on January 26th, and that's still... still breaks our hearts to this day. And now Jerry Sloan. And there's been a lot of people missing and gone today. So on that note, I'm going to leave it that with Jerry Sloan. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. I'm out of time here. Thanks for tuning into my show, Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I hope you all come back on here on Thursday. I'll have some more NBA and NHL topics. Maybe some MLB topics as well. And NFL topics relating to the 2020 NFL regular season. Maybe some more people who got drafted and the schedule. Nonetheless, maybe some news maybe on MLB opening day. Maybe some merchandise. We will see. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you all. Be safe. Be well on this Memorial Day weekend. And I hope to be back on here on Thursday with a better show as well. Take care, everybody.